Hello and welcome to Why ADHD Women Can't Stop Eating. This training is for you if you feel like you've been on a diet your whole life, you struggle to control yourself around food, you're hungry all the time, maybe you forget to eat and then you become so ravenous you can't control what you eat. Basically, food has been a nightmare for you your whole life. It's been the center of your life. All you think about is food. You just want to eat and eat. This is an ADHD trait. It's something that I discovered long after my diagnosis, and it makes so much sense. All of my habits as a child, eating till I was sick, secret eating, just basically constantly thinking about food and constantly eating food to the point that people would actually make comments about how much I was eating all the time. So this training is for you. If you are new to me, my name is Rosie. I am a diagnosed ADHD. I was diagnosed about 10 years ago. You don't need to be diagnosed to follow my work or to work with me in any capacity. If you think you have ADHD or if my work just resonates with you, then you are welcome here. We don't expect formal diagnoses here. I am a foodie. I love to eat. I've always loved to eat, as I've just alluded to. And I really struggled with this disordered eating for a long time. And then back in 2023, I discovered paleo. And everything completely changed. And I'm not going to push paleo on you today. I'm not here to tell you to eat a specific diet. So please don't worry that just because that's where I started, that's what I expect from you. But I was basically able to control my appetite, lose weight easily. I managed my PCOS, now known as PMOS. I managed to fall pregnant after struggling for a long time. I had more energy than I'd ever had in my life. I was sleeping better. My mood was lifted. I actually started enjoying exercise, having thought that I hated it my whole life. And once I really realized the benefits of good nutrition, I knew that I needed to train. So I have a certificate of higher education in nutritional therapy. I'm also a certified fitness coach, and I'm currently studying to be a women's coaching specialist, which means I will specialize in fitness and nutrition for the health span and the lifespan of womanhood, basically from puberty all the way through to menopause and beyond. So that's a little bit about me. I won't waffle on too long. We are going to jump straight into the training. I know that you want to hear what I've got to say. I know that you want the answers. So in today's training, we are going to cover why ADHD makes it so hard for you to control your appetite, why you want to eat all the time. We are going to break it down into the neuroscience of this because I want you to understand that you're not broken. You don't have a willpower problem. You don't have a motivation problem. This is how your brain is wired. A big part of my work is de-shaming a lot of our experiences with ADHD. And I do that by helping you to understand exactly why you struggle with what you struggle with, as well as offering you the solutions. So we are going to also get into why traditional weight loss advice doesn't work for us and what you can do about it. There's no point me sharing all this information with you if I'm not going to help you make any changes to your life. So you will receive a copy of this workbook that I'm currently sharing. So don't worry that you haven't got that yet. That will be sent out to you with this recording. If you want to download it and watch along, once you have it all, then please do that if that helps you process the information. Oh, bear with me. This is yours to keep to support you on your journey to losing weight and keeping it off for good. And I know that you have probably been promised that before. So you might be skeptical, and I completely understand that. There is a lot of promise out there and not a lot of follow through on the online space. And I'm going to tell you why that's different for me. But let me just tell you that most people don't understand ADHD, and most people don't understand women's health either. So there's a lot of people sharing a lot of advice that is mostly geared towards men. And if you have worked with coaches before or dietitians, I know somebody mentioned to me she'd worked with an eating disorder charity and it hadn't helped. The difference, and this is not just my opinion, this is what science shows, the difference is that you need to work with somebody who understands ADHD. And if that person doesn't, they're not going to be working with your neurotype, and all the information and guidance and support in the world isn't going to be helpful for you. So what's different about my work? Firstly, I'm not a gym bro who's never struggled with his weight. I'm an ADHD woman with a lifetime of my own disordered eating habit that I've had to learn to overcome without the kind of support that I offer today. And honestly, I wouldn't change my journey because I wouldn't be offering this support today if I hadn't been through it and had to figure it out on my own. And so my work is a combination of lived experience myself and evidence-based experience, the research, what does the science tell us, and experience working with clients. So I really get this from every level. I'm not just going to preach to you. I practice what I preach. I've been through what I talk about. I understand this truly, deeply. Secondly, as I've mentioned, I have a certificate of higher education in nutritional therapy. This goes way beyond counting calories and macros. It goes into how food, lifestyle, and the brain and body all interact with each other to create health or dis-ease. I've written dis-ease because we're not just talking about diseases, we're talking about quality of life. And if you are brain foggy, exhausted, struggling with your ADHD, you've got joint pain, you've got gut pain and bloating and discomfort, like all of that is dis-ease, even if it's not a disease. I have a particular focus on women's health. Like I just said, I'm taking our women's coaching specialist course because we are not just little men. Our bodies and brains function completely differently, and I take this into account. And then thirdly, and possibly most importantly, I understand on a physiological level what ADHD means for our ability to function, to be consistent or not be consistent, to see through lifestyle changes or not. And I've just mentioned this evidence actually, but this scoping review of over 1 million participants states that people with ADHD and autism do better with obesity treatment that takes into account their neurotype. And so I've given you the PMC article number here if you like to do your own research. If you want to see what I'm talking about, it's quite long, but if you're interested in science, then please do go check that out. In my work, we don't fight our brains. We learn to understand them and we work with them. When you do this, achieving what you set out to becomes a whole lot easier. So you did also get, with this masterclass, you got access to my mini course, Understanding Your ADHD Brain. The reason I did this is because you'll be able to implement anything I talk about here much more easily if you understand how your brain works, if you have the language to advocate for yourself, to understand why you struggle, and to be able to find strategies that actually work for you. It's all very well somebody telling you eat more protein, eat more vegetables. If you struggle with planning meals and doing food shopping and figuring out how you're going to adapt a healthy meal to the rest of your family, for example, these are all considerations that we have to make when we're changing our lifestyle. And it does lead me to just say, I've just used the word treatment a minute ago for obesity. I do not treat any medical condition. As a nutritionist, I can advise and I can guide you on making healthier food choices, but I cannot diagnose, treat, or cure any condition. And before you make any changes to your lifestyle, you should consult your doctor, please. So why is it so hard to stop eating when you have ADHD? I'm going to go through several mechanisms here. Firstly, we have dopamine dysregulation. There's a lot of talk in the online space and the ADHD space about us having a deficiency of dopamine. That's not strictly accurate for everybody. Our brains use dopamine differently. So without going too science heavy for you, we have differences in our dopamine receptors and dopamine reuptake, which means maybe our receptors, which are like little signals that tell the dopamine where to go and to attach to, we might have fewer of them, and we might clear dopamine more quickly from our synapses, which means that it's not present as reliably in our brains. So it may not be that we have less, but it's certainly less reliable. Wonderful. So this hits us as a double-edged sword. Dopamine is involved in reward pathways and motivation. And so it means that A, food is highly rewarding. It's hyperpalatable foods like your ultra-processed foods like pizzas and crisps and chocolate and ice cream and all the things that we end up turning to and wish we didn't are extremely rewarding for us. You know what it's like. You start eating that food, you intend to only have a little bit, but it tastes so good and you're so stressed, and so you end up eating more, all of it. It's highly rewarding. And since we have inconsistent access to dopamine, which is involved in motivation, sticking to a diet that doesn't immediately reward us and can start to feel a bit boring means that our motivation wears off. And so we start a diet with great excitement, thinking about all the possibility, but we get a few days in and we're like, I just want to eat some pizza. And we give up and we quit. And so we have this up and down roller coaster of dieting. Emotional regulation challenges. So we are emotional people. I've talked about this on my podcast. I talk about this quite a lot. We don't naturally have the pause between feeling and reaction. So you get angry, you shout. You get upset, you cry and you eat. We just don't have that. I'm feeling this emotion. I want to eat ice cream, but actually I only had some yesterday, so I'm not going to today. We don't have that naturally. It's something that we have to develop and practice. And we are creatures that avoid pain. Our goal is to not be in pain, which means it could be physical pain, it could be emotional pain. So when a difficult emotion rises, the quickest and easiest way to shut it up is to quite literally swallow it down with a 12-inch pizza and a tub of Ben & Jerry's. And so we've got this emotional response that's hard to regulate, and we've got this desire to move away from pain. And this is normal for all humans, the desire to move away from pain, but the emotional dysregulation challenges are prevalent amongst ADHDers and people with autism, or both. All or nothing thinking. I'm thinking you're probably going to resonate with this quite a lot. So you're either 100% on a perfect diet, or you are 100% not on a diet. Because you've decided that you're going to give up sugar forever. You're never going to eat chocolate again. You're going to quit pizza. You are never going to eat an unhealthy food ever again. It's decided. But then naturally life happens. You get stressed. You have a tough day. You run out of food. And the easiest thing for you to do is to eat pizza. I keep mentioning pizza. We've been eating and we're having pizza tonight. And you've spent your whole life being told that you're not trying hard enough, even though you've been giving 150% effort. You've decided that nothing but perfect will do, because basically people have always told you that what you're doing isn't good enough, even if you are actually trying really hard. And so there's no room for grace. And diet culture has taught you that you have to be disciplined and consistent and that this is the only way to succeed. So in your mind, you can't enjoy food, indulge sometimes and lose weight. It's perfect or nothing. So it's either a perfect diet or it's no diet. There's no in between. And so again, this sends you on that diet roller coaster of 100% on, 100% off. I'm dieting, I'm restricting, I'm eating more, I've ruined it. It's a mess, basically. And I know because I've been there. When I say it's a mess, I'm not judging you. I know it. I know it painfully. So impulsivity and decision fatigue is the next one. So we've already touched on impulsivity when it comes to being emotionally dysregulated. But because we don't have that natural pause between desire and action, often we make decisions before we've even thought it through. And so after a stressful day or when we're feeling overwhelmed, the ability to make a decision about what to eat and make sure the decision is aligned with your goals is almost impossible. We want food, we want soothing, and we want it now. So reaching for convenience foods or hyperpalatable foods becomes the impulse decision. This happens even though you know it doesn't align with your goals. So you might have just enough of a pause to be like, man, I want ice cream. No, but you want to lose weight. Yeah, but I want ice cream. That desire in the moment, even if you know it doesn't align with your long-term goals, becomes more important because, again, you're trying to move away from that pain. And when you've had a day of making decisions and being overwhelmed and trying so hard and you're exhausted at the end of the day, it's really hard to go, okay, just because I want this, it actually doesn't mean I'm going to do it because ultimately my goal is to lose weight. And just as a side note, none of this means that you can't have pizza or ice cream or have a day where you end up turning to convenience foods. You absolutely can. It's just if those things happen every single day, obviously that doesn't align with the goal of wanting to lose weight. So it's not, again, this is not about all or nothing thinking. It's about being able to slow down and decide, how is this decision going to impact me right now? So interoception is your awareness of your body's internal signals like hunger, thirst, needing to pee, etc. This can be impacted by ADHD and autism. You can have reduced interoception, making it harder for you to tell when you need to eat or drink or pee or any other kind of internal signal. And you can have increased interoception, meaning that you feel these sensations more strongly. And it can be mixed amongst needs. So as an example, I rarely feel thirsty. I'll drink tea and coffee all day. But remembering to drink water doesn't tend to happen until I'm absolutely parched and I'm like, dying, I need to drink. However, In contrast to that, I feel hunger really strongly. And it's easy to confuse hunger with thirst. Sorry about my wobbly laptop. I'm trying to find a good position. So sometimes you can be thirsty but think you're hungry. And you might have a different combination. It's not going to be the same for everybody. So examples of this, of how this can show up, can be that you don't realize you're hungry until you're so ravenous that you end up overeating because you just need to eat something right now, or feeling constantly hungry and eating all day. And obviously there's boredom eating, emotional eating, stress eating, happy eating. And it can impact your ability to tell that you're full. So you could eat until you're uncomfortably full. Usually this happens if you eat quite quickly and you don't give your stomach a chance to feel that stretch, that it's full. And so you can end up being in a situation where you're like, oh my God, I'm so full, it hurts. Undoing your buttons, having to stretch away from yourself to give yourself some more space. And hormones. So female hormones could be PMT or PMS, whatever you like to call it, PMDD, which is an extreme form of PMT. It can be really disruptive to your whole life if you have that. Good nutrition can help to balance things a bit more. And I don't say that to be dismissive. I know that it can be really difficult to deal with. And perimenopause and menopause, couldn't find the word then. Hormones play a role in appetite, emotional regulation, and cognition. So hormonal fluctuations throughout your cycle or the gradual decline in estrogen and progesterone through perimenopause can increase hunger, decrease confidence, increase brain fog, and make healthy choices feel impossible. So you've probably noticed that in the lead up to your period, you're more emotional, you're hungrier, you're tired, you're cranky, you're brain foggy. This is because your hormones are essentially declining slightly in the lead up to your bleed. And so this can make healthy choices really difficult. During perimenopause, you've got that kind of constant decline of estrogen and progesterone. So just as a quick explanation, progesterone is your calming hormone, helps you feel at peace. Estrogen increases your confidence and is involved in brain function too. So during perimenopause, a lot of women will discover that they're ADHD because everything starts to fall apart. The brain fog is intense, their moods are all over the place, they're hungry all the time. And yeah, a lot of women will find out that they've got ADHD when they hit perimenopause because of the impact it has on your brain function. And appetite does genuinely increase before your period and during perimenopause because estrogen helps to manage hunger as well. So if you're in perimenopause and you feel like you're hungry all the time, your appetite's increased from what it used to be. I'm not strictly in perimenopause, I don't think, but I think I'm heading towards it. And I have certainly noticed that I eat bigger portions now in my 30s than I used to in my 20s. And smaller amounts of food that used to satisfy me don't anymore. And this is because of the way our hormones impact us as they start to decline. So next we've got shame and low self-esteem. So ADHD has received thousands of times more criticism throughout our lives than neurotypicals do. So when you add that to a lifetime of feeling different, especially if you're late diagnosed and with no explanation, maybe being told your ADHD doesn't exist. I've certainly had that from people. It was made up by Big Pharma. It doesn't really exist. It's just bad behaved kids. You need better parenting, blah, blah, blah. We've all heard it. Being told that you just need to try harder. My school reports were basically full of that. You could do so much better if you just tried harder. Rosie could stop talking. She could get more done. She doesn't care. She's not interested, blah, blah, blah. All the things that we hear. So we carry a lot of shame and low self-esteem, especially as women when we carry the weight of this on top of social expectations and battling with our weight. It becomes a vicious cycle and it's nearly impossible to make positive changes in your life when you don't feel capable or that you deserve good things. And if you have been yo-yo dieting all your life too, there's probably an underlying sense of I'm not capable of doing this, which will impact your ability to actually do it. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Binge restrict cycles. So whilst this it is related to ADHD actually. I was going to say it's not, but it is because it's actually quite well known that ADHD women are more prone to eating disorders. And again, I'm just going to point out I don't treat anything. If you do have concerns that you might have a full-blown eating disorder, then please do seek professional help. But these binge restrict cycles that we tend to get on, partly it's diet culture because it tells us we need to be more disciplined, try harder, just keep doing it, be consistent. and it's really hard for us to do. And our perfectionist thinking, which we'll get to in a minute as well, we end up on these binge restrict cycles because of all of the above, everything we've already talked about. So you decide you're starting a diet, you go all in. Usually it's too strict. You stick to it for a few days, maybe a week, before you can't take it anymore and you spiral into a binge. Then you decide everything's ruined and quit and just go on this prolonged binge because you've restricted for too long. Or you go on one binge, decide that you've ruined everything and you have to make up for it so the cycle starts again. I'm sure this is probably resonating with you. That was certainly my cycle for a very long time. So why don't traditional diets work for us? Surely you just change your diet and it all works. So I'm guessing you've tried everything: calorie counting, low carb, keto, low fat, paleo, intermittent fasting. They all work while you're on them, but you can't stick to them. There are plenty of diets that quote unquote work if you can stick to them, and some are better than others for health. But the key with traditional weight loss advice is you have to be able to stick with it, and that's where we fall down as ADHDers. Or actually, to phrase that better, where we are let down as ADHDers because the advice doesn't work for us. All right, so traditional diets depend on willpower. How many times have you said to yourself that if you just had more willpower, you could stick to a diet? Willpower actually requires quite a lot of executive function. You'll recognize that phrase if you have done the Understanding Your ADHD brain course, or if you've been learning about ADHD for a while. Executive function is basically your ability to plan, prioritize, and execute tasks. So willpower requires you to be able to set a goal, hold that goal in mind, remember it across the day, and hold that goal as a top priority no matter the situation. That requires executive function, good working memory, so remembering you set the goal in the first place, emotional regulation, and decision-making capacity. So if you think about it, that's actually quite a lot of things that need to line up in order for you to have good willpower. And for ADHDers who struggle with each of these skills, willpower comes and goes like the wind. Relying on willpower to lose weight is like trying to rely on your toddler to remind you to pick up milk when you next go to the shop. Probably not going to happen. So motivation, just like willpower, comes and goes. Remember how we talked about dopamine earlier? When you can't rely on dopamine to make you feel rewarded for making good choices, before the scale changes or your clothes feel looser, your motivation soon fades and your favourite foods start calling your name. The thing with actively trying to lose weight is that it's going to take a while to take effect. And we are impatient people. We want results yesterday. So when it's been 3 days, you're already eating a diet that's probably too strict for you and nothing's changed. That's going to feel really demotivating. And that might lead you to be more tempted to go on a really strict diet, a stricter diet, because you want results quicker. But the trouble is you can't sustain it like that. And I think we're going to get to a bit more on that in a minute. But again, you can't rely on motivation or willpower. They're not going to serve you. Unsustainable restriction. So diet culture, and unfortunately even governments, health professionals, influencers and gym bros are constantly telling you to eat less and move more. Unfortunately, this message is way oversimplified, and it leads to the belief that the less you eat, the more you move, the better your results will be. And I've worked with women who have been through this. They've cut down their calories to 800 a day. And I had this woman once, she'd cut her calories really low and she was eating about 800 calories a day. And she was on her exercise bike for 2 hours a day because she'd been led to believe that if she just eats less and moves more, then weight loss will follow. And she wasn't losing weight, and she was naturally and understandably really frustrated. I actually got her eating more and taking a step back from exercise for a little while, and she lost 8 pounds in a week, which I'm not going to tell you is typical because it's not. And it's certainly not something that you want to aim for. That is a huge amount of weight loss in a short period of time. But it goes to show that eat less and move more isn't necessarily accurate. There is actually a balance to be had where you do need to be eating enough in order to lose weight effectively. If your body thinks it's going through famine, it's going to hang on to resources because it doesn't want you to starve. So it's understandable, like I was just saying, when you want to achieve results quickly before you lose motivation again, it feels logical that if you follow an even stricter diet, the weight will come off faster and you'll be able to stick to it. And it is motivating to lose weight quickly. Oftentimes when people go keto, they'll lose quite a lot of weight quite quickly. And although it's mostly water weight, this can be very motivating to keep going. And so there is something to that, but you also have to consider your ability to stick with something long term. I'm a huge proponent of keto. It's an extremely healing diet, but it is very hard to stick to. And so again, you have to think about your personal situation and whether you can actually stick to something like that. And if you can't, if you've tried it before and not been able to do it, there may be a bit of acceptance that needs to happen, that's not a realistic diet for you. And if you can't stick to a diet that you followed, weight rebound is a thing that's going to happen. So if you lose weight quickly, but it's done in a way that you can't stick to, as soon as you come off that diet again, you start eating quote unquote normally, you're just going to gain it back, and potentially even more than you even lost. And so you might end up even in more of a surplus of weight than when you started. Your brain has really powerful mechanisms in place to prevent you from starving. So when you cut your intake too low, they do kick in to force you to eat again. And we also have brains that are primed to seek what we can't have. So when you've told yourself you're never allowed to eat your favorite foods again, they're going to be all you can think about. And again, that's really hard to override. Our brains are so powerful. They're literally designed to keep you alive. So anything you do that goes against that mechanism is going to have a really powerful counter mechanism to make sure that you don't do that. And again, so this is not a willpower problem or a motivation problem. This is a survival problem. It's a mechanism that is set up to ensure your survival. And so it's more powerful than you. Your desire to survive is more powerful than you, if that makes sense. Perfectionism. Again, diet culture has told you that you need to be consistent and try harder and be more disciplined and just keep going. Eat less, move more. And again, when you've been criticized your whole life and been told that you're not trying hard enough, then it's no wonder that you believe that you either have to eat perfectly to succeed or it's not good enough and you just give up. And we've got influencers and online coaches telling you that all that takes is discipline. Our literal brains, our brains that take things literally, take that as be perfect or you're failing. What they don't tell you is that consistency and discipline don't mean perfection. They just mean persistence over time. So it's not about eating 100% perfectly forever and consistently training at the gym 5 days a week forever. It means just keep going. So persistence over time. So you try to be perfect, you start well, but just like the unsustainable restriction we discussed, life happens. You have a bad day, it's someone's birthday, or you forget to do food shopping on time, so you have to turn to convenience foods. And then you tell yourself it's ruined. You binge and the cycle starts over. So I'm wondering if you can see a pattern emerging here. Everything about traditional weight loss advice is set up against the way our brains work. We're not consistent. We struggle with emotional regulation. We struggle with willpower. We struggle with motivation. Everything about traditional weight loss advice relies on all of those things that we don't have. And so the pattern is you keep trying to be perfect. You keep trying to follow these rules and you can't. And so you feel like a failure and you quit and you end up on this yo-yo diet train forever. And then we've got inconsistency shame. So most neurotypical coaches preach discipline, consistency, and hard work. It's easy to feel like you're not good enough when you compare yourself to other people who seem to be able to set a goal, do the work, and achieve it like it's nothing. Meanwhile, you're on your 20th diet this year and seem to be bigger than when you started. That can make you feel really ashamed. It can make you feel like you're failing. You're not. Like I just said, the whole system is set up against you. And this applies not just to dieting and weight loss, this applies to careers and jobs and school, and everything about our lives is set up against us. And then burnout. So this is exhausting. I know because I've been there. Constantly being on a diet, constantly trying to make yourself eat less, constantly berating yourself because you failed at it yet again. It's exhausting. And honestly, it's causing you stress. And this can dysregulate your hormones and contribute to more weight gain, not to mention the impact on your mental and physical health. Stress is massive. It can cause chronic disease, it can cause weight gain, it can contribute to poor sleep, poor mental health. Stress is huge. Above even diet, like stress is something that needs to be prioritized. de-stressing needs to be prioritized. So what actually works? This all seems pretty doom and gloom, but believe it or not, we really can successfully lose weight and keep it off. It just takes a different approach, one that respects your neurotype and doesn't ask you to fight against it. So this first one might surprise you. More food, not less. Instead of focusing on restriction, we focus on eating more of the foods that help us feel full, satisfied, and happy. These foods are primarily protein and healthy fats like meat, eggs, fish, butter, olive oil, avocados, nuts, and seeds. Next up is plenty of veggies. These add volume, fiber, and vitamins. The reason this works is twofold. Firstly, protein and fat are digested more slowly than carbohydrates. And we're not demonizing carbohydrates here. So don't think that this is me saying never eat carbohydrates, but we are going to primarily focus on meat, fat, and vegetables. Also, when your body is properly nourished, your appetite naturally quietens down. So you've probably heard a lot of influencers and gym bros telling you that you just need to eat in a calorie deficit, man. Okay. Calorie deficits, yes, that is part of the process. But if you were to eat, let's say 1,800 calories of cake and donuts, A, you wouldn't be able to eat very much because they are highly calorific, but B, because they are not nutritious, they don't have much protein and they don't have healthy fats, vitamins and minerals non-existent, your body wants to know that it's nourished. It needs to know that its needs are being met. When that doesn't happen, you get hungrier. And so not only I know that nobody's probably actually eating 1,800 calories of nothing but cake and donuts and crisps, but you are going to eat then a smaller volume of food because they are so calorific for a small amount. You're also going to be digesting, I keep trying to say digesting faster. So you're going to be hungry quicker. And because they're nutrient poor, your body is going to be seeking more food because it hasn't had its needs met. Whereas if you were to eat 1,800 calories of eggs and vegetables and steak and chicken and healthy fat, your body is going to be flooded with nutrients. You've got that good amount of protein and fat that's going to slow down digestion and keep you full for longer. You're not going to need to eat as much. It's the same amount of calories, but very different roles in the body. So yes, calories matter, but the quality of the food you eat is far more important. Because eating high quality food is going to naturally reduce your appetite. And bonus, prioritizing these foods also support brain function and mood, which helps you to alleviate some of the ADHD traits we've discussed that make weight loss so hard. So when you're eating a diet that actually works for you, and when I say diet, I literally just mean the foods you eat. I don't mean going on a diet. It makes everything easier. Speaking of, I'm hungry and my tummy's rumbling. Hope you can't hear that. Stop putting a label on your diet. So for years, even as I was healing and so passionate about nutrition and qualified in nutrition, I was still following labeled diets. For example, eating paleo, eating keto, going on a diet. I actually went carnivore for a while as well. And that was really good. But the trouble is, as soon as you say you're on a diet or you're going keto or you're eating a specific diet type, you kind of set yourself up for failure because as soon as you eat something that's outside of the rules of that diet, in your mind, you failed again. And so instead, it's about eating more of the food that support your goals and being mindful of how much and how often you eat the foods that don't. It's not about elimination. It's just about being mindful. So, for example, I like to try and eat a paleo style diet. I know that I feel better eating those foods. So lots of meat and eggs and fruit and vegetables. I feel really good eating that way. However, if I say I'm eating paleo and then something comes up and I eat some bread or something that's not considered paleo, then there's that mindset that you've done it wrong or that you failed it, rather than just saying, I'm going to choose to eat these foods because they support my goals. And I'm just going to be mindful of how much I eat these ultra-processed foods because they don't support my goals. And I would like you, just as a side note, to broaden your goals to more than just weight loss. Because when you focus primarily on weight loss, like we said before, if the scale doesn't move, and there are going to be times the scale won't move, and it might even go up, especially if you're lifting weights, that you feel like it's not working, I'm doing it wrong, and that could lead you to quit. Whereas if you've got your health in mind, if you're thinking about energy levels and focus and mood and sleep and digestion and all these other amazing benefits of changing your diet, it's much, much easier to stick to when you can notice all of those benefits, regardless of whether the scale has moved or not. And that helps you with motivation and adherence. The next one is persistence over consistency. So the only thing ADHDers are actually consistent at is being inconsistent. We know this. So trying to force yourself to be consistent when that doesn't come naturally to you is only going to reinforce your sense of failure. Accept that you will be inconsistent. And that's not about giving up. That's about just accepting who you are as a person. Treat yourself with compassion and course correct when you notice you've slipped off track. You don't need perfection, just more positive decisions over time. That's it. That sounds too easy. It's not easy, but it sounds too simple. But it really is about just noticing that your diet's maybe creeping more towards ultra-processed foods more often than you'd like, accepting it, treating yourself with compassion, and then just bringing yourself back on track again. And again, being on track is not about never eating the foods you love. You can still eat the foods you love. Again, it's just about being mindful of how often you're doing that. Nervous system regulation is the next one. So as we've discussed, most of your weight loss success relies on you being able to regulate yourself. It's making decisions, even when it's hard, even when you're emotional, even when you're stressed. And as impulsive, emotional people, learning to regulate our nervous systems is huge for us. Not just in making healthy diet choices, but also in our whole lives. We experience the world at a high volume. So this is a bit of a long game. Nervous system regulation is something that you need to practice, especially if you're new to it, especially if you've got past traumas and things. It's not going to happen overnight. But there are some practices that you can use that I've listed here to help you. It's not about being perfect. You won't always be perfectly regulated. Even when you've been practicing this for ages, there are going to be times you're going to lose your shit. You're going to yell at your kids. You're going to feel guilty about it. You're going to emotionally eat because you've had a hard day. These things are going to happen. But these exercises can help you. So I'm not going to go into a huge list and into huge depth here, but we've got breathing exercises, walking in nature, exercise you enjoy, taking part in hobbies, yoga, drinking water. Dehydration is going to make you feel more stressed and irritable. Socializing with trusted people. I know we're not all super social creatures. I could take or leave socializing, to be fair. If that's something that makes you feel good, being social is very good for us as humans. Swimming, laughing, taking time for yourself. There's so many things you can do to regulate your nervous system, but ultimately, the happier and more fulfilled you are, the easier it is to make healthy choices. So if you can learn to regulate yourself both in the moment and by shifting your life to one that helps you feel more fulfilled long term, it's all going to contribute to helping you make healthier food choices. Self-compassion, this is huge. You are going to fall off track. You're going to give in to cravings. You're going to overeat sometimes. It's not just you, it's everyone. Everyone does this. I know you probably feel like you're the only person in the world who keeps failing at this, but you're not. You're not an anomaly. We talked about shame earlier and how it's not a good strategy for success. And whilst a small amount of short-term shame can kickstart change, let's say you catch yourself in the mirror and you're like, oh man, I'm not looking good. I need to do something. That's fine. But constant shame, constant belittling yourself, constantly putting yourself down is not going to help you produce the results you want. So from now on, whenever you eat imperfectly, fall off track, or give in to your cravings, you're going to start speaking to yourself nicely. You can reflect on what happened objectively. You could be like, okay, I had a stressful day. We didn't have enough food in the house, so I couldn't cook a healthy meal. So we ended up ordering takeaway. That's an objective reflection. And then your next thing might be, how can I prevent this from happening in future? Maybe it's setting a reminder to do food shopping, or trying to take some time for myself quickly when I'm feeling overwhelmed so that I can bring myself back down again. You can talk to yourself really objectively like that. But you also need to speak to yourself kindly. If you were talking to your best friend or somebody you love, what would you say to them? You wouldn't be like, you're so lazy, you haven't got any discipline, why are you always doing this? What's wrong with you? Like, you'd never speak to another person like that. You'd be like, it's okay, you know what, you've had a hard day and the kids really stressed you out and then you ran out of food. It's okay that you had to just do what you needed to do. Doing that will feel weird to start with if you're used to beating yourself up constantly. But over time, this becomes a natural way that you speak to yourself, and it will become your internal dialogue with yourself. You'll actually start to naturally be like, it's okay, you've got this. You've had a tough day. We can just, let's try again tomorrow. It's going to be fine. That becomes normal and natural. That is now my internal dialogue, sorry. So putting it all together, we're almost at the end. As you can see, losing weight with ADHD isn't as simple as just going on a diet and being consistent. And although diet and lifestyle absolutely matter, like you can't make changes without changing your lifestyle, if you don't address your ADHD traits that make this so difficult, you'll yo-yo diet forever. So I'm really hoping that this has given you a lot of insight into why this is so hard and what you can do about it. By learning how your brain helps developing strategies that work with your brain, learning self-regulation and self-compassion, you can finally stick with your nutrition and lifestyle changes. So weight loss not only happens in the first place, but is sustainable. Everything we've talked about here might take you a little bit longer, but it means that the changes you do make, you will stick with. And ultimately, you'll get to your goals faster by doing it in a sustainable way. Because for as long as you're yo-yo dieting, you're going to be constantly losing and regaining the same weight over and over again. And so you're putting all this effort in, stressing yourself out all this time to ultimately not end up any closer to your goals. So by doing it a bit more slowly, with a bit more patience, without this constant restriction and binging that's not actually getting you anywhere, feels like you're doing something, but it's not working. Having some patience and taking it steady will actually get you there faster. So if this has resonated with you, if you have found this helpful, firstly, I'm really glad. But I would also like to invite you into the ADHD Body Bible membership, where I walk you through every single stage of successful weight loss with ADHD. Everything we've talked about here is just really skimming the surface of all of this. We go much deeper inside the membership, from understanding your ADHD brain, which you've had access to as part of this free training, to naturally regulating your appetite, so going much deeper into the nutrition side of things that I briefly touched on here, to recovering from emotional eating. I give you strategies, long-term and short-term strategies for healing emotional eating, sustainable fat loss, including lots and lots of recipes that you can follow. And we're also going to be covering healthy relationships, building self-confidence, and so much more. The membership is really bridging the gap between getting your ADHD diagnosis or realizing your ADHD, all the way through this healing process of all the things that nobody ever told you about your ADHD that all contribute to emotional eating and weight challenges. And so it could even be changing careers, building healthy relationships, like I've just mentioned. It could be business growth. It could be parenting, all of these areas that are so much more challenging in a society that isn't set up for us. We're going to cover them because nobody teaches you this. And it's all going to be in a way that is ADHD friendly. Like I mentioned in the study at the beginning of this training, all of the strategies in the world aren't going to help you if they're not put across to you in a way that works with your brain. You are not failing. You've been taught a strategy for every single area of your life that's built for the wrong operating system. And so this journey is not just about going on another diet. It's about becoming someone who takes care of herself because she knows she's worthy of it. And you don't need fixing. You need to be seen, heard, and guided with compassion. And that's exactly what's in the membership. And once you join the membership, you also get access to a WhatsApp community of other ADHD women who are on the same journey as you, plus weekly support from me to cheer you on, hold you gently accountable, answer your questions, and help you keep persisting through all of life's challenge. So I would love to have you join. If you have enjoyed this training and you want to go deeper, you can join us at ADHDbodybible.com. You can sign up there. It's £69 a month. Or you can sign up for a year at a time for £690, which gives you 2 months for free. I'm also going to be running an ADHD fat loss reset through July. So I'm going to be guiding you live through all the trainings. Plus, there's going to be more trainings to come in the WhatsApp group. So it's literally going to be this week, watch these videos, take these actions. And you're going to get support throughout the summer holidays, which are approaching too, which can be a really hard time to stay consistent or persistent. We're changing our language. Because you've got barbecues, the kids are home, we've got birthdays. For us, we've got 5 or 6 birthdays through the summer. We've got my daughter in May, I'm June, 3 of our children are August. So we have birthday food galore. And obviously with the nice weather, you've got, like I said, barbecues, beach trips, fish and chips, all of these things. And so it's not about not doing those things. I'm never going to tell you not to celebrate with your family and friends. It's about finding ways to stay persistent, even whilst allowing those treats to happen. And you can do that. And that is what I'm going to walk you through in the ADHD Body Bible membership, plus the WhatsApp group where you're going to get live support from me as you work through this. And so it's not about something to add another stress to your life. This is about really shifting the way you view food, the way you view yourself, and teaching you to make this work for you within your lifestyle, within your capabilities. So if you're ready to step off the yo-yo diet train that you've been on for your whole life, then this is really going to be life-changing for you. If you've got any questions, please do reach out. You can email me at hello@adhdbodybible.com. Please do ask any questions you might have. Comment on this video. You can contact me through Facebook and Instagram as well. So I'd love to see you in there. Thank you so much for watching this training. I hope it's been helpful for you. Please do leave me your feedback. And I cannot wait to see where the membership takes you. It's really going to be incredible for you. Take care. Bye.